I never imagined my life would reach a moment where I'd look into my husband's eyes and see nothing but devastation. It started like any other lonely Friday night. Michael, my husband, had been working late shifts for months, barely home, barely present. We used to be inseparable. But lately, our conversations had become polite exchanges, like roommates sharing a house, not partners sharing a life. That evening, I sat on the couch scrolling through my phone, feeling invisible. Then a message popped up from Daniel, an old college friend. "Still alive out there," he joked. I laughed, grateful someone remembered I existed. We chatted for hours, harmless at first, just catching up. But as the night deepened, the messages got warmer, more personal. He told me I deserved attention, that any man who left me feeling lonely didn't see my worth. And those words, so simple, filled a hole that had been empty for too long. A week later, he invited me to dinner. "Just two friends catching up," he said. I told myself it was innocent. I wore my new dress, the one Michael hadn't noticed when I bought it, and told him I was meeting a friend from work. He barely looked up from his laptop when he said, "Sure. Have fun." Dinner turned into drinks. Drinks turned into laughter that felt intoxicating, dangerous. When Daniel brushed my hand across the table, I didn't pull away. My heart pounded, my mind screaming stop, but I didn't. When he leaned closer, his voice low, I felt wanted, something I hadn't felt in months. The next thing I remember is the dim light of his apartment, the faint smell of whiskey, and the sound of rain outside. I don't know when I stopped thinking about consequences. I just remember the warmth of his skin, the escape, the rush of forgetting my pain. Morning came too soon. My phone was filled with missed calls from Michael. Panic flooded me. I told Daniel I had to go, but before I could leave, there was a loud knock at the door. 3 hard, angry knocks. My heart froze. When I opened the door, Michael was standing there. His eyes were bloodshot, his jaw clenched. He didn't need an explanation. He could see it. My messy hair, the borrowed shirt, the guilt dripping off me like sweat. Time stood still. The rain outside matched the silence between us. He didn't yell. He didn't curse. That was the worst part. He just looked at me, really looked, and said, "So this is where you've been?" His voice was quiet, but it cut deeper than any scream could. I tried to speak. "Michael, please, it's not what." But he raised his hand slightly. "Don't." His voice cracked, and I realized he wasn't angry. He was shattered. The man who once held me like I was his whole world now looked at me like I was a stranger who'd stolen something precious from him. He turned and walked away without another word. I followed him outside, barefoot in the rain, begging, crying, apologizing for something I couldn't undo. He didn't even turn around. The days after felt like walking through a storm that never ended. He moved out, leaving behind his wedding ring on the nightstand. I sat there for hours, staring at it, replaying every moment that led us here. I kept asking myself, why did I let one night destroy years of love? Was I that weak, that desperate to feel seen? Weeks passed with silence. I sent messages he never replied to. I left voicemails full of tears. Nothing. It was like he'd erased me. And maybe he had every right to. Then one day, there was a knock on my door. I opened it, expecting maybe a delivery. But it was Michael. He looked tired, older somehow, like the pain had carved lines into his face. "I came for my things," he said simply. I nodded and led him inside. He walked through the house slowly, touching objects like he was saying goodbye. When he picked up a framed photo of us from our honeymoon, his hand trembled slightly. "I used to look at this every morning," he said. "It reminded me why I worked so hard. For us." Tears blurred my vision. "I'm so sorry, Michael. I don't even know why I did it. I just—" He interrupted softly. "You were lonely." I nodded, sobbing. He looked at me for a long time before saying, "You could have told me." Those words broke me more than the night he caught me. Because he was right. I could have told him. I could have said I missed him, that I felt invisible. Instead, I betrayed the one person who loved me more than anyone else ever could. Before leaving, he said quietly, "You can keep the ring. Maybe you'll remember what it once meant." And then he was gone. I sat there, holding that small gold band, remembering the day he put it on my finger. The promises, the laughter, the dreams. All shattered because of one night, one decision I could never take back. Months later, I heard he'd moved to another city. He never remarried. I tried to rebuild my life, but guilt has a way of living under your skin, whispering in your quietest moments. Every time I walk past a mirror, I see the woman who destroyed her own happiness. Sometimes I still dream about that night, not the mistake itself, but the look in his eyes when he saw me. A look that said I would have forgiven you for anything, except this. I wake up crying every time. I learned something the hardest way possible. Love doesn't die from distance or arguments or routine. It dies when trust is broken, when one moment of weakness outweighs years of devotion. And that night, I killed ours.